Hi everybody, it's almost officially October. Another month has flown by, completely flown by, and I have not finished very much reading. Unfortunately, I've started 4 different books. Can't seem to get through them. It's very difficult to concentrate. Obviously, I've been saying this for months. It's just nearly impossible for me to focus on a book right now. But I will tell you the books that I started and didn't finish. So the first one was Naked Heat, which I started for Garb August. I read the first one in the series last year, so I thought I'd maybe give the next one a try. It's okay. I mean, it reads like an episode of Castle. It's basically a police procedural. It's the premise this time is that a gossip columnist has been murdered, and the Castle character, who is called Rook in the books, is writing an article about her the same way that he wrote about Nikki Heat. And that's the basic premise. The next book that I started but haven't been able to finish is a book called Deceptive Calm. I'm not far enough into it to figure out what the plot is, but it's about a young lady she's a teenager. She's like 17, and she is going to the prom, and she is the only, I'm not sure if she's fully white or if she's just light-skinned, the only white girl in the orphanage where she lives, but she's also the most beautiful girl, and the vast majority of couples looking to adopt are black, and they don't want to adopt her. I'm not quite figuring out what's bothersome and troublesome for me is that, how do I explain this? The book purports to be concerned with it's set in 1968 in the South. I think it's Alabama. And it's obviously deep in the Jim Crow era. And they're just kind of trying to figure out integration and everything else, a few years after it's happening in other places. But what's bothersome to me is that the story about Jim Crow is centered on the beautiful white girl. And just reading the author's bio, she grew up in that time period, in that place, as one of very few white faces in a largely black community. So it feels in some ways like an author self-insert, which can be problematic enough. But when you're writing about an oppressed minority from the point of view as not being a member of that minority, I am uncomfortable with that. I'm not offended. Anything about any book to me that speaks about a specific time and place and can recreate the sentiment of that time is interesting to me. But so far, I'm not feeling the character very much. I'll probably have more thoughts on it when or if I do finish the book. The next book was a book called They Came A-Knocking, and I have said before that I'm, absolutely a hopeless consumer. So if something comes across my TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, social media feed, if something comes across and it looks interesting to me, I will go and grab it. And this is one of those things. I'm only about a quarter of the way into it. Yeah. And then a cozy mystery called A Dog We Trust. So those are the books that I started but haven't finished, or I've barely cracked. And then also more failures. It seems silly to admit to failing reading, But I do feel like if I haven't finished at least one book every month, hopefully two or more, I haven't really done enough. But I mean, I'm the only person I'm competing with, so it's not really a loss, right? Um, but the one thing that I did, the challenge that I kind of wanted to try and complete by the time I had this particular birthday was that I wanted to read 10 books in the last year that are books that I've basically owned for a while but never gotten around to reading. So I did manage to get through Clockwork Orange, Heart of Darkness, Burnt Offerings, The Color Purple, and I think there might have been one more in there, but I can't remember. I know, my memory's terrible too. Set a challenge for yourself and don't even remember what you read. Read or didn't read. So in the coming months, I would like to continue with these particular books until I hit 10. But the list itself kind of keeps changing. And then I read something that I've wanted to read for a long time, and I'm like, hey, good, I can add one to the list rather than chucking one off the list, right? I know it sounds weird, but yeah, when you're like me and you kind of have terrible attention span and you can't finish anything, this is what you're left with, and any completion is, it's good. So I will keep working away on that. October is now here. It's now officially, it's Falloween. So I'm going to continue trying to read some classic horror and reporting on those. I'm going to say right now, I have tried to read Dracula every year for like the last 5 years or 4 years or whatever it's been that I've been on YouTube. And every year I have not finished it. So I would like to finish Dracula this month. I do have a couple other books that I'd like to at least start, but Dracula is going to be my big project for October. And then hopefully, so my health has been not great, but better than it was since I left the hospital beginning of July. And we kind of keep going back and forth, am I going to go back to work? So I do hope within the next month or so that I can head back to work. So I will let you know when I'm back to work. Kind of scary because I've been off for so long. But we will see what happens. And yeah, that's pretty much the only update. Everything else is pretty much the same. Yeah, I am still trying to get by, I guess, and I will keep you updated if I do get something read. And I hope you're reading lots of horror because it is Falloween and it is the time for it. Have a great day.